Treasure Coast Connector, connecting residents and businesses of the Treasure Coast. And here's your host, Ellen Contreras.
Well, welcome to the Treasure Coast Connector. I'm your host, Ellen Contreras of the Pharus Group, one of our sponsors. To learn all about them, visit the website at www.pharusgroup.com. That's PHARUS group.com, or call them directly at 772-223-3344. Treasure Coast Connector is a show that puts a spotlight on the local business owners so we can learn why they got started in their business and what makes their products and services so unique and special. And today we're going to be talking about strategic ways to grow your business. We're going to be focusing on establishing control, maintaining control, and expanding control so that you can enjoy continued success in your business. And to talk all about this with me is Steve Woods. He is an industrial engineer, and he is the Director of Operations at Pharus Group. So welcome, Steve. It is a pleasure having you here today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So what I want everybody to know, I know you as a Renaissance man. That is honestly how I see you, because you started out your career, you had wonderful jobs in operational management, and then you decided to take your expertise on your own. You had your own consulting firm, very successful. Then you decided, I'll say just a left turn, and said, you know what, I want to explore the world of restaurants and catering. And so for 20 years, you had a very successful Italian restaurant and catering company in Indiantown called Di Stefano's. And then you said, I conquered that. I want to go back and help businesses with their operations. So please explain what it is that made you want to do all these different things. People love the backstories.
Well, I started out working for the Postal Service and became an industrial. Well, I started off as a management trainee and got assigned to the industrial engineering department within there, decided I liked it so much. I went on for my master's degree in industrial engineering. And throughout my career with the Postal Service, I went from operations and industrial engineering back and forth. I've been the plant manager for 1,000-man facilities.
That's a lot of people to manage.
That is, yes.
Or I call it cat herding, but well, yeah.
And challenging, but a lot of different skills needed to do that. Then in my final chapter of my career with the Postal Service, I actually got transferred up to the Treasure Coast as postmaster of Jensen Beach. But being used to working in the major facilities, 24-hour day, 7-day-a-week facilities, working in a smaller office, I got bored. And so just to give me something extra to do, I got involved in an Italian restaurant. And then when I retired, I actually convinced my wife, let's buy it out. Went into that. But I approached it as an engineer, not as a restaurateur. We had never had any experience in retail operations, in restaurant business.
Okay.
So I really went in with zero experience. But I used some techniques that I apply not only to the restaurant, but all the companies that I consult for. And that is set up operating reports.
Okay.
So every business has 5 to 10 key performance indicators that allow you to understand and control the business. And I established those right from the beginning, keeping a major understanding of my food cost, material cost of goods sold, my labor cost. And I tracked that very closely, along with a few other key performance indicators. Those were the things that allowed me to stay in control of a business I really knew nothing about and understand it. So I established control through my operating reports and my key performance indicators.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Restaurants, as we all know, definitely a lot of them, unfortunately, will peter out after a few months or a few years because they're not paying enough attention to the costs and things. So I think that your 20 years as a restaurant owner wearing your engineering hat just speaks volumes. So, and I think that maybe there are some other restaurants out there, the restaurant owners, that could really learn a thing or two about that. So,
restaurants can use the help, but these are tools that are applicable to almost any business.
Right.
Every business is essentially the same. You get a raw material that comes in, it goes through a number of processes, and a finished goods comes out the other end. If it's a restaurant, it's food.
Yeah.
It's a combination of customers, clients, the food in the kitchen. You prepare it, and you want to give them a satisfactory experience, and that's the finished good going out the door. I've been dealing with a legal firm now that leads are what come in, and turning them into clients and having a satisfied customer or a satisfied outcome is the finished goods. So these tools and techniques can be used in almost any business. I specialize in manufacturing, distribution, restaurants. It's a manufacturing facility.
right.
So what I'm talking about are tools that can be used anywhere.
Well, very good. And so you had mentioned to me, everybody has their way of thinking about what it means to have a successful business. So let's talk a little bit about what your definition of a successful business is. I know, and we both have our Cliff Notes, and you can definitely, because actually, no, it's perfectly fine. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of different things that we wanted to touch on. So we had some bullet lists. So yeah.
So a successful business is one that is profitable, sustainable, and able to grow. And it takes all those components really to justify success.
Absolutely. So, and then another thing is that we can boil that down into different segments of, different, aspects of a business. So, I love having bullet points because it's...
Yeah, what it is, I wrote these notes up, and sometimes I got to refer back to them.
No, please do, because, this is, there's a lot of stuff to...
But actually, along with me today is my brother, who is my mentor. He's taught me a lot about business. He was the one that I was in business with in our consulting practice, and we grew that together fairly successfully.
Right.
So I'm actually going to turn this over to him, because so much of what he says as the successful components of a business are things that he's drilled into my head over the years. So Marv, why don't you take it away?
So Marvin Woods, thank you for joining us. I wasn't sure about introducing you or not, so I apologize for not introducing you at the very beginning.
I wasn't supposed to talk.
Yeah, but this is the fun thing about radio, and don't worry, it's Facebook Live.
I'm not worried.
There's only like probably 125,000 people watching right now, but you're not nervous at all. I know that.
Not him.
So, but let's talk about the different fundamentals of a business to pay attention to.
Well, in order to create a profitable business, obviously you have to have a product that is sellable, it's good quality product, and you've got to be able to sell it. So we're going to pick up after that point.
Okay.
So when we look at operations improvement, we're assuming that you can sell your product and you have a product to sell. So the next question is, have you established the kind of support structure, infrastructure, and underneath foundation that will allow your company to grow? And so where Steve starts out is he goes and he takes a look at where you are currently and benchmarks your current numbers and against industry standards and against where you could be. And then we take a look at what will it take to give you that kind of stable infrastructure and stable underpinnings and foundation. And that surprisingly is a big issue. And part of that is putting together operating reports, and Steve just talked about that.
Right.
So as we take a look and say, most companies, they get their accounting reports. I know I ran a business.
Yep.
By the time I got my accounting report, that was really wonderful, but I couldn't manage my business that way because I needed information in real time.
Yes.
That told me what was actually happening now.
Yeah.
And then you also needed a couple of other things. Based on key performance indicators, which means useful data, not data for my accountants or for my lawyers or for the tax accountants. Not helpful for running a business. And the second thing is I need to see patterns. So I want to see what happened last week, what happened same week last period, so that I can detect any anomalies that are happening, any patterns that are developing. Because I have a rule of thumb, and that is the first time I hear a problem, everybody's got an excuse. And so you take note of it, and you say, well, yeah, maybe. Second time you hear the problem, you say, I'm getting a little doubtful here. I think we got a problem. Okay. The third time I hear it, I don't want to hear about the excuse. We're going to fix the problem.
It. Yes.
And so, but you only know that if you have the patterns and you have the history. You can't look at any individual report, and believe me, everybody has an excuse as to why you don't understand. This is what happened this month or this quarter or whenever. And I used to get lots of that from people.
But data in real time allows you to nip a problem in the bud. There's a lot of business owners that are not paying attention to these reports you're mentioning.
Well, they don't usually get them.
Yeah, they don't even have them to begin with.
That level.
Yeah. Exactly. And then what happens is a few weeks, a few months down the road, then it becomes a huge problem, and it wouldn't have. There was no reason for it to get to that level.
And this is one of the first things that I do when I go into a company is I really try and set up these operating reports. A client that I just did some work with, we went in there, they thought they had some operational issues.
Okay.
And so they brought me in to take a look at operations, improve productivity, cut their costs, and do kinds of stuff. And so the first thing I do is really set a baseline and take a look at what's actually happening.
Right.
So I started to look at things, and I started to put together these operating reports. And the first thing I noticed as I started to put the data together was their total cost of goods, labor and material, was 74%. That's unsustainable in any business.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, but that's the data that they had. And so now I started looking at it and breaking it down and setting everything up. And what we found was, well, they had opened up a couple of retail outlets and they were lumping everything together.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But now when we separated it out, we identified that the retail outlets were losing money. And when you pull the labor out from that, all of a sudden, now we realize manufacturing was under control. It wasn't nearly as bad as they
thought. You thought. Okay.
And they ultimately closed one of the retail outlets because it wasn't profitable. They started entering this data in real time, and they're back under control. Their cost of goods sold is like 58%.
Wow.
Sometimes 62, 63, handleable numbers, but it's real-time data. They look at this every single week. These are the things that I do.
Well, I love success stories. Everybody loves hearing that because it helps you to figure out, that there is hope if I'm having a problem. But what we need to do right now is take a quick commercial break. There's a lot more that we have to talk about, operational efficiency, when we return. Stay tuned.
Are you talking about having your own radio or TV program? Then you should talk to Planet Vero. Here's why we're the best. Your show will be heard on 3 local iHeartMedia stations, plus worldwide on the iHeartMedia network. And you can choose our live stream option, which gives you 6 cameras and professional television studio quality production that's delivered to many social media platforms. Call us for a free, no obligation on-air interview, and we'll show you the power of Planet Vero, radio, and TV. That's 772-778-2832. Follow the powerful Rush Limbaugh Show on Planet Vero Radio. Take advantage of the amazing opportunities on social media like Facebook and YouTube with a live stream broadcast. Call 772-778-2832. It's the future of marketing. It's Planet Vero, and it's brought to you by Idea Garden Advertising. Visit planetvero.com.
ITEX, or International Trade Exchange, is the largest barter company in the world, with over 25,000 members offering goods and services. We're a marketing company that brings you new business in the way of trade, with over 200 local members enjoying the benefits of ITEX, like lawyers, doctors, plumbers, media, printing, and more.
Hi, this is Liz Bowler. Contact me and find out why barter through ITEX has been smarter for over 30 years. 772-532-1881. Visit itex.com.
Looking for a change? How about Renaissance? Visit Renaissance Senior Living and see what La Vida Bella means in Vero. Convenient to downtown and Miracle Mile at 2100 10th Avenue, US 1. Offering 36 apartments for assisted living residents to live the good life close to everything in Vero. We have 24 apartments for memory care residents, a secure and safe space for those living with dementia and Alzheimer's issues. Stay connected to your loved ones' lives and find new friends to share your life with. RenaissanceVeroBeach.com to find out more.
Welcome back to Treasure Coast Connector. I'm your host, Ellen Contreras of the Pharus Group, and we've been talking about operational efficiencies and how to grow your business strong. And joining me again is Steve Woods and Marvin Woods. Steve is the Director of Operations of Pharus Group and an industrial engineer. We were talking about some success stories because you have had people that have come to you with very specific problems, or you've uncovered problems. So let's go back into that, please. Yeah.
Okay. Well, the work I do, operating reports is just one area that I look at it. I do material handling systems, methods and procedures, facility layout. We do a lot of work with facility layout and design, and a tremendous savings that can occur in that arena. A lot of businesses start out and maybe 10, 20 years ago or 5 years ago when they started the business, they had a pretty straightforward production operation. Something came in and went through a number of processes and out the door. Then they added a new product line and looked around the facility and plopped it down somewhere. And then they added a new...
More machinery coming in.
Machinery and put it somewhere else. And before you know it, they have a very...
Convoluted floor plan?
Yes, looks like a bowl of spaghetti. And we go in, we take a look, we kind of smooth those processes back out, and often get tremendous savings in the productivity area, sometimes 10 to 15%. Bottom line productivity.
Well, not just productivity. One of the big things is space utilization and taking a facility that is about to explode and you're saying, well, maybe I need to go out and buy another building. I'm going to have a $3 million investment. And Steve's usually able to go in there and by doing his little magic and relaying things out, can stretch that building out another 5 years, delaying that $3 million investment for maybe 5 years.
That's amazing. So they can plan it. Yeah, they can plan it better. And then you're finding space for them.
A very specific example of that was a pharmaceutical company I was working for, and they brought me in because their picking operation was their volume was growing, and their picking operation just wasn't able to keep up. So they initially brought me in just to improve the methods and procedures in that quick pick operation. We ended up moving it, doing a two-tier system, and we picked up 25% more floor space in their warehouse.
Wow.
They were originally knowing they had to get out of the building within 2 years. Once we were completed, they knew they were going to be able to stay within that facility for at least 5.
That's amazing. So now they're operating, no pun intended, operating from a position of strength.
Absolutely.
They're able to plan better. That's wonderful.
So there are a lot of different aspects that we can go in, and very often the business owners, if they took the time, some of this stuff they could do on their own.
Sure. But they're running their business.
They're too busy running their business. And this is where someone like us, we can come in, we can assist them, and using their ideas actually implement. And that's one of the other differences. When we go in, we're not just giving you a piece of paper saying, here, do this, and we're gone. We get involved in working with the people and making sure that we can implement. And we're very good at working on the shop floor, working with the people. And that's the difference between a successful activity and a failure. The people doing the work can control whether something succeeds or fails. But when you listen to them and get their input and help them implement sometimes ideas that they've wanted to get done, but for some reason management isn't listening, we come in as an independent resource, listen to both sides, and actually can make it happen. And so the employees have a vested interest in making it successful. And I've actually
because you're making their lives easier in a lot of cases. And so that's the thing. Sometimes you're caught up in the day-to-day that, you know, sometimes you lose sight of the bigger picture because you just want to get product made or out the door, customers serviced, and things like that.
And another very specific example is I was implementing a conveyor system in an operation, and we had a test model put up in it before we actually put it live, and we really got the employees that were working it really working with us, using their ideas and incorporating them toward the total design. And I remember the day we implemented, I had been there almost a whole day. I just couldn't see any further. I went home, came back the next morning, and the employees came up to me and said, "Steve, there was a problem." I went, "Oh no, what happened?" They said, "Don't worry. Here's what we did temporarily. You need to get this fixed and everything will be fine."
Nice. Okay.
They had a choice.
Yeah.
They could have let me fail. But because we got them involved and they were invested in it, it was a successful project.
Very nice.
And that's that comes because Steve came up the ranks from the bottom. He worked on those jobs.
He's been on the floor and in the trenches.
And still talks to those people instead of going, living in his ivory tower about the way things should be. He makes sure that he works with the people so that we know how things are and that those people are enthusiastic and part of the solution and not part of the problem.
No, that's
so one of the
wonderful.
big differences about the kind of work we do about productivity improvement that turns me on a lot. I did that kind of work. I used to own a software company. We did large-scale distribution systems for big grocery companies, very large grocery companies, all across the coast of the U.S. and Canada. And we used to think that we prided ourselves that we kept the cost of feeding the people down. And so one of the things we're able to do is show direct, measurable results. These are systems, these are techniques, these are methods that are in the end not going to cost you anything because they're going to return hard dollars that more than cover the cost of the project. In addition to that, there are going to be all kinds of soft savings that we don't try to measure, but boy, they're substantial. In many cases, they're more valuable even than the hard savings.
That is music to the ears of the business owners and their management team. Is at first they're like, oh, we've got to rip this Band-Aid off of this pain problem we're having. How much is it going to cost us? And then in the end, yes, they have to go through some changes, but then it's money back. Like they're recouping it like pretty quickly.
Almost
in a lot of
every project we've worked on has had less than a 1-year return on investment.
Yeah, that's
Therefore,
amazing.
We're saving you more than we're costing
But I
you.
always tell people, if you give me $10 today, by the end of the year, you'll have it back, and your accountants won't know that it even happened.
Well, that's wonderful. No, but the accountants, of course, have to be part of.
It's a cash flow issue if you're into that. But in fact, as a CEO of the company, that's what I always told people. If we could make a 1-year return on investment on something, we could have it. There's no question, which means it really cost me nothing. Except for a little cash flow that my finance had to deal with.
For that temporary. So that's wonderful. There's also a company that's out in Okeechobee. We only have maybe like 30 seconds. Is there something you can talk about that where they needed to go through some changes, but you said you're doing it offline before you make it online?
Yes, we're working
30
with
seconds.
We're working with a company and we're setting up dual systems, so we're testing out all the methods and procedures. We're working with their point of sale system. We're getting data to flow from the point of sale to QuickBooks, but we're doing it offline to test everything out before we go live. So we do a lot of that. We don't just implement stuff and hope that it works. We make sure it works before we implement.
That's wonderful, because then if something is going wrong, you can fix it, because a lot of people kind of plow through something. And
but more important than that, everybody involved sees the results and can see, wow, if I do it this way, I don't have to do all of this stuff because it's working. And they can see it before it actually happens.
Yes. Yes.
And so we get the buy-in from the people involved as well.
And that makes the whole entire team so happy. I have to say, I've been having so much fun week after week on this show, and time flies when you're having fun, when you're in this studio. Oh, my goodness. So before we go, thank you so much, Steve and Marvin, for being part of this show. Please tell everyone how they can connect with you directly.
Well, they can call Pharus Group directly or email me at steve@pharusgroup.com. at pharusgroup.com. That's PHARUS group.com. First name Steve.
STEVE, yes, just to make
yes.
sure. Very good. So we are almost out of time, but I just wanted to say again, we had a wonderful time here. Any questions about your business, you can just reach out to Steve directly. I am your host, Ellen Contreras of Treasure Coast Connector, and Pharus Group is one of our sponsors. You can learn all about them. There's lots more that we do other than the operations efficiencies at www.pharusgroup.com, PHARUS group.com. Make it a wonderful and productive week, everybody.